Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Meanwhile.
All right, we have a Fox News alert. James Brennan and James Comey are likely regretting going all in on the Russia hoax now, because DOJ sources are telling Fox Digital that the FBI indeed has launched a criminal investigation into the former CIA director and former FBI director for potential wrongdoing related to the Trump-Russia probe and all the alleged false statements made to Congress. The full scope of the investigation is unclear right now, but two sources describe the FBI's view of the duo's interactions as, quote, a conspiracy.
Hey, MAGA, it's your consolation prize for not getting Jeffrey Epstein. You're going to get James Comey and John Brennan. What?
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth. Somebody on top of the line!
Good afternoon and welcome to the Afternoon Drive. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That will give you notification of my rants, my ravings, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Hey, please like and share this video. It's the only way that we get the word out that we're here. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of the Afternoon Drive. Success can sometimes breed an attitude of, I'm invulnerable. I'm really good at this. Nobody's better than me at this. I will always have this level of success. And there is no doubt that in the first 6-7 months of the Trump administration, they have had success on top of success on top of success. But unfortunately, sometimes that kind of success can go to your head. Look at a sports team that's doing really, really well. I mean, the New York Mets, for example, started out red hot and then fell apart in the month of June. They're getting it back, but they, instead of kind of treading water, which is where they are now, they could be, way out in front with a 10-game lead, but they squandered it. They did it to themselves. We have watched Donald Trump face down the attacks of the Democrats, of the media, of the lawfare, and he has withstood those attacks. It has made him stronger. It has surged him forward. He has put together a coalition, the likes of which this country has never seen in the political movement. There was no stopping him, don't miss this, from the outside. But that doesn't prevent an implosion from the inside. When Elon Musk announced that he was going to launch his America Party, I kind of laughed it off. I'm not laughing right now. And it's not because I think there are all these defectors and detractors from President Trump who will join the America Party. But you stop and think about Elon Musk for a moment. Here was a guy that launched an electric-only vehicle. I mean, his own company to compete with the big three out of Detroit. I mean, if you've ever seen that movie Tucker, I mean, this is Elon Musk, and nobody thought he had a chance. And yet, despite everything that's happened in the past few months with his dealerships being set on fire and Tesla customers being marked for vandalism by libloons on the left, despite the loss of revenue on his stock value, Tesla still trades higher than the big three. He bought Twitter, overpaid for it. made a lot of drastic cuts, add subscription to it, and has turned Twitter completely around as a rebrand called X. Nobody thought he could do it. He did it. Whoever thought that a private company could replace NASA? Elon did it. Starlink? So don't think that he can't, because right now, MAGA is in trouble. You got Alex Jones literally crying on air, and every MAGA supporter, yours included, doesn't understand this whole continual cover-up over Epstein. Now again, the consolation prizes, we're going to give you James Comey and John Brennan. These are bad dudes. Okay, we know what they did to Donald Trump, and I could use Donald Trump's words against him on this. Comey, Brennan, we still talking about those dirtbags? I get it. I get why he on a personal level wants to get those guys. I mean, they engage, as far as I am concerned, in treasonous behavior. So I have no problem getting them. What I have is the problem in the timing. You have Pam Bondi saying that she had all the evidence that MAGA was waiting for, the client list, and was going to connect all the dots. And now she's saying, that's not what I said, and it's not what I meant. You have Donald Trump just doesn't want to talk about this, and we know why. And it does hurt that it's coming from one of our own. Another government cover-up. Here we go. But the problem is this time is MAGA supporters have said, whoa. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And Donald Trump said something a couple weeks ago that it rubbed me the wrong way when he said it. It was regarding Elon. And Elon talking about how President Trump was betraying MAGA with the big, beautiful bill. Now, we know that Elon had his own reasons for saying that, like it was cutting away his electric vehicle slush fund, as well as the fact that, he's a big proponent of the H-1B1 visas, and he didn't like, all of the extra funding for ICE and deportation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Donald Trump's response to Elon was something to the effect of, MAGA is whatever I say it is. Time out. Originally, yeah, you are the inventor, the creator of MAGA. It's bigger than you now, Mr. President. And I say this out of respect and love for you. I'm not attacking you. I'm not your enemy. But somebody around you has to stop being a yes man and tell you that this Epstein issue is bigger than you realize, because this is going to create the opening that the Democrats have been waiting for. Elon Musk has been waiting for. It's going to cause your implosion. Every great invention had an inventor. And that invention, if it's still around, is bigger than what the inventor saw it as. Can anybody name the inventor of television without Googling it? You think television is today what they thought it was back in the 1920s when they first started experimenting with it? The internet? So, Mr. President, with all due respect, MAGA's bigger than you now. And there are people who understand what you have been put through by the deep state. But this bait and switch that there's nothing to see with Epstein. Do you understand what you're asking your supporters to swallow?
Speak for myself. I never thought that I would be offering an apology to Jeffrey Epstein. I think of all the times I've maligned that guy, all the times I've accused him of crimes, of blackmailing people, of trafficking children to powerful figures around the world on behalf of global intel services. And then I learned yesterday from Attorney General Pam Bondi that's totally untrue.
Yes, yeah.
The guy killed himself after 36 days in prison for no reason. He was a billionaire. Mm-hmm. He had no clients. He'd done nothing wrong other than get like naughty massages 20 years before. And the guy killed himself, another pointless death. And then his best friend, former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, doing 20 years in prison for no crime. There are no victims.
Yes, it's a victimless crime. They're obviously persecuted by the state.
Yes.
They're political prisoners, really. It's The Hague should come in and do an investigation, or we're watching one of the most systematic government cover-ups of all time.
Now, Mr. President, I have no doubt you have other things that you want to get to. I have no doubt that you've got things in place, that the economy is going to rock and boom, and you are hoping all of this Epstein stuff just goes away. Now, I grant that the average American citizen is kind of like, eh. But I mean, these were vile people. And someone who is really evil, I mean vile evil, they get their satisfaction. They get their joy. They get their sick, twisted pleasure out of corrupting innocence. And that's what these people did. Are we really supposed to believe that Epstein molested 1,000+ girls alone? Let's talk to the girls. Some of these are women now, and they want to talk. They want their story told. Why do I have a feeling if they start coming forward, they're also going to start disappearing? Tucker Carlson had Sanger and Jetty on, and Sanger is all over this, all over it. He's got it. He's got the best take on it. It's about an 8-minute clip. It's worth your watch, Mr. President. This bait and switch where you're gonna go after, James Comey and John Brennan. Look, as far as I'm concerned, yes, they ought to spend the rest of their lives in prison for treason. And all of the other accomplishments that you are making, great, thank you. But understand, this Epstein corruption that you're now telling us there's no there, that is going to hurt you. Do not keep doubling down on this. Here's Tucker Carlson.
And so watching this all just get perverted and then used and hijacking our government is just particularly offensive to me, not only just as an American, but I feel particularly not only deceived by the people like the FBI director and the deputy director, Dan Bongino, but the attorney general who went on camera after assuming her office on the White House lawn. These are supposed to mean things, and said thousands of victims. We have the client list. We have the flight logs. She held a little press conference, whatever event with so-called influencers in which she gave them the Epstein files, an infamous photo that was released. It turned out that binder actually had redacted information in it, which was already public, just to demonstrate how they were turning they're turning the White House effectively into a performative show and making, light of the fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of underage victims. And it's just not the victims, it's the fact that it extends to the highest levels of the elite, the transatlantic elite, and possibly even beyond that, from some of the richest men in our country, presidents of the United States, former prime ministers of Israel. We're talking here about Bill Gates, Leon Black, Leslie Wexner, the richest and most powerful people in the world, the Nobel Committee, the scientific, the community, Harvard, MIT, the tentacles through which this operation had its hands in and stretches all the way back to the 1980s. It is one of the most disgusting intelligence operations, I think, in United States intelligence history, rivaling some of the things, eventually that led to the death of President Kennedy. And the thing is around this time is just like Kennedy, we all know the truth. We know that this document released by the Trump administration is complete bullshit. And I guess that maybe, just like with the Kennedy assassination, they expect us to just get over it in a period of time. And I genuinely think it's incumbent on anybody who was either supportive of the president, any United States citizen, to say no. We demand absolute and total transparency on this case, and particularly of these government officials. Do not use your platform to enrich yourself on these podcast platforms and constantly talk about Epstein and the Epstein files, eventually assume office, change on a dime, and expect us to trust you. That is not how this works. No. And in particular, in that document, I think it's one of the most disgusting documents ever released by the United States government, because it said there was no blackmail, we're not releasing this information. Kash Patel has this new line about how we're not going to re-victimize women. Ask the Epstein victims themselves. They have been begging for this information to come to light, specifically to implicate the powerful men that victimized them and through which they were, they were basically used for trafficking purposes to ensnare them in this high-level U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence operation, probably run in conjunction. And the trail of this entire thing it enrages me. It actually enrages me as an American.
I don't think you're alone. And I do think, as someone who voted for the president, campaigned for the president a lot, I'm not attacking the president, but I think even people who are fully on board with, the bulk of the MAGA agenda are like, this is too much, actually.
Yes.
I'm saying that with love, and I hope that they're listening, because I think this threatens to blow up the whole thing. But let's just back up a little bit and just pick at some of the inconsistencies here. So you're saying that Pam Bondi said on camera, we have a client list.
On the White House lawn.
I've seen the client list.
Yes.
And then yesterday she's saying there's no client list.
There's no client list. And there was no systematic blackmail. That actually might be the most preposterous line in the document.
But it doesn't make any sense. So they've said that there were thousands of young people, in some cases minors, underage, children, sexually victimized. Are they saying that Epstein single-handedly had sex with all? Because actually, for whatever it's worth, I don't think anyone I've never seen anyone make the claim that Epstein had sex with anybody.
Yes, that's right. Well, a lot of these allegations revolve around like group activities and they around like masseuse and being, look, the way that Dershowitz and others would claim it is I kept my underwear on and it was all very above the board massage information. There's that famous photo of Bill Clinton in the airport terminal with one of these young victims who herself says she was a victim of the Epstein entire machine. So you're exactly right. It's like for these thousands of women, were they victimized entirely by Ghislaine Maxwell and by Jeffrey Epstein? Because, by the way, that's not even what the Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein court documents and other things that we already knew that were in the public information. That's not what they say. That's not what the testimony of the victims of these people say. And so, again, even this client list thing, and I do think people can go down the rabbit hole too much and think that there is, as you know, there's no ledger as had sex with so-and-so and we, because of that, supported Israel. Like, that's not how it works.
So the term client list itself is misleading.
It's misleading because really what we want is a full list of the victims, of the people who flew on the flight logs. But the most important is the money. And I think a lot of people actually miss that in the Epstein story. Jeffrey Epstein came to power largely because he worked at Bear Stearns and effectively was like a high finance money laundering expert. That's effectively what we can learn from his background. That's how he came involved with Leon Black. Leon Black was one of the most powerful men in New York. This is the head of the Apollo Group. He paid him $170 million through various shell corporations for tax advice. And when he was caught doing that, he was said, actually, it wasn't even useful because all the tax advice was actually in the public domain. So what? Leslie Wexner in the 1991, I believe, signed full power of attorney over to Jeffrey Epstein. He was one of the richest men in America. I think he was the richest man in Ohio at that time. Jeffrey Epstein becomes the head of the Wexner Foundation, funnels some $2.5 million to Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. I'm putting these things out there because I want people to know that the money is an integral part of the operation. And to the extent that the sex trafficking and all of that is linked, they are fused together because they were used primarily by the intelligence community. Both Epstein was a conduit of high stakes money laundering for things like, not Iran-Contra specifically, but let's say like funneling arms from Israel to Iran. This was also how he met eventually Robert Maxwell and became ensnared with his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell. The money laundering is actually more key to his intelligence rules.
From Israel to Iran?
Well, this was a key part of the Maxwell story. Robert Maxwell is a very sketchy character, Ghislaine Maxwell's father. People focus on the tabloid. That's actually not all what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is the fact that he's this Czechoslovakian Orthodox Jew who escapes from the Nazis. He eventually becomes a highly decorated soldier. Actually, I think he won the second highest medal in the UK for his operations during World War II. From that point forward, becomes very, very enmeshed with the Zionist community inside of the UK and propping up the newly formed state of Israel. From that point forward, he basically serves as a high stakes, almost an entity in and of itself. That's the way that Daryl Cooper has described him, is like a sovereign wealth fund almost, which with together brokers all kinds of cutout deals, between Israel and Iran. And actually, Epstein himself, when he was just 28 years old, flew on a private jet, I believe, to the Pentagon with somebody who we know is directly linked to these, previous intelligence operations and funneling money and weapons into many of these conflicts. So this stretches back decades, and that's a very, very important part of the story. So please just do not tell me that there's no part of a systematic blackmail campaign. It's so preposterous, and it actually just makes me want to tear my hair out. And I guess the only good news is that, just like with the Kennedy assassination, we do all know the truth. The Kennedy assassination broke this country. I really believe that. I know you do as well. But it broke something even more fundamental and opened up what they called the credibility gap under the Johnson administration, where prior to the 1960s, Americans trusted their government. It was actually a beautiful thing. I mean, it was bad in some ways as well. We were taken advantage of by the Dulles brothers and a lot of other horrible things they were doing in the 1950s. But it was beautiful in the sense of social and of civic trust.
Yes.
And something was broken with that, with the Kennedy assassination. And then it was extended, of course, into the war in Vietnam. And we've never been the same since. And all the Trump administration, elected on the backs of a lot of these people who want more transparency in government, saw a lot of this corruption, to just turn around and do the same thing. It's just too much. It's too much for me, and I think it's too much for a lot of other people.